Okay, welcome to the final video for the World Rapid Championships. Before the final round 15, Karjakin leading with 1 point ahead of Carlsen, who really spoiled a huge lead after day two. Sorry, this is day three already. So before the last round, it's pretty simple. The only chance for Carlsen is to win against Opalov, while Karjakin only needs a draw against Grandmaster Kunusov here to secure first place. And I'll do Karjakin's game first now to see what happens in terms of the tournament win. Karjakin going d4 and Kunusov playing the Sicilian. Karjakin plays a normal main line here, going for a sharp setup, not minding really a fight in this game. He didn't play some drawing line or something. Alright, so the Taimanov variation. b5 is a bit an old-fashioned move, but I think still playable. Knight f6 is more common nowadays with this kind of stuff happening. But b5 is the traditional line that Taimanov himself played. So castles, bishop b7, and now white captured on c6 and played a3. So this is kind of indication that white is playing it a bit on the safe side here. I think he maybe had some more aggressive continuations, but no need for excessive risk here. You just need to draw to win this tournament. So a3 to prevent any b4 ideas is quite a good move. So black continues to develop and white goes f4. There's not much else in terms of active play in this position, so f4 is normal. d6, queen f3. So we've got this typical third rank setup here, and black puts more pressure on the e4 point, which white strengthens with this rook, castles, and bishop d4. So quite a healthy setup here for white. One idea is to play something like this, queen to h3 or g3, depending on the concrete position, and then advance with e5 to unleash this bishop. And we see some of these ideas happening, but black immediately tries for counterplay, which white needs to attend. This bishop was attacked and you cannot retreat it as b2 was hanging, so this way he protects the bishop and also protects b2. And now black with a direct play in the center on this point, so white advances and black manages to play knight e4. This is certainly quite a good opening result for black. He doesn't have any specific problems, but white is still fairly solid. It's not easy to see how black should improve his position by huge, to improve it really considerably. Play g6 to prevent this f5 idea that white might play, and now knight c3. White doesn't mind to exchange more pieces. Bishop c5, and now white takes the chance to drop back and ask black, okay, what are you doing? You really want to exchange your good bishop versus mine? And we get this transformation, sorry, to an endgame where this knight nicely covers the c2 square, and also this pawn might be a weakness, and it all very logically develops to quite an equal endgame. White might white might look better here at first sight. You think that, okay, you can win this pawn somehow, or maybe win this pawn, but black is threatening a4, and this is just a problem here. White cannot really prevent this, so he decided on knight b5 to offer a repetition here, which black declined, but this is still a position where black cannot do much. You've got this covered and this attacked, and black, after giving this check, won the c4 pawn, but black won e4.
Check.
And
Check.
not quite sure at which point, but
Check.
yeah, here they decided to draw the game. So Karjakin did a quite professional job here to wrap up this tournament with a draw. And also I think maybe he was a little bit not sure, but maybe a little bit surprised by this kind of old-fashioned variation from black's point of view. And I think this a3 and stuff is not really the kind of setup to refute this, what black did here. So yeah, this is actually time for congratulations on winning this tournament. Karjakin really did it, as this draw basically yeah, secured the tournament win. Carlsen, even with a win against Topalov, yeah, wouldn't overtake him. He just lost too many points. So Karjakin scored 4.5 points on this final day, with yeah, admittedly some help of his opponents, but this is always necessary. Cannot win without the opponents making mistakes. Okay, but to make this a complete video, let's look at Carlsen's game also against Topalov, and yeah, we're in for some really weird stuff happening. So let's see what happened in this game. It starts pretty solidly with the Slav defense, the a6 line, Chevanenko line. White played e3, and now Carlsen with slight surprise here, bishop f5. I'm just thinking about this. Did he already play this against in this tournament? I'm not quite sure, but usually in this position bishop f5 is not the preferred move. They usually play either b5 or e6 or Kamsky's special move here, g6. But this bishop f5 is somewhat uncommon. Back in the day when I studied this, one reason was, I think, the move knight e5, but Topalov just plays bishop d3, continuing just his development. Yeah, and what Carlsen is doing here in this game is really a kind of provocation. He tries to provoke white in doing something, and tries to sort of, yeah, win with counterattacks or something like this. So it starts with e6, which is certainly playable, but the combination of this structure with a6 is a bit uncommon. You would see what happens now. White takes and plays queen b3, and now we have a position which is quite compromised already in the center, and b7 is hanging, so he needs to play rook a7. This looks a bit shaky, but it's certainly playable, but still a bit of provocation involved. So Topalov bishop d2, and now he captured even, and bishop d6. Yeah, all pretty normal moves. What are the what are the ideas here? Black tries to control the centered squares with his pawn on f5 and knight on f6, and white's idea is to open up the position with e4 and d5 before this rook really is back in the game. And I think this is exactly what happens in the game. He tries to, yeah, quickly play e4. Black took and played knight d7. Black, I think, would be perfectly alright if the rook was on a8. So if he had this move extra. So now it just takes a bit of time to get this piece involved. Still, it might be okay for black, but it gets tricky very quickly. Bishop g5, queen a5, to control also the square from the side. Rook e1, all very normal, and now rook a8. Yeah, h3, securing some luft for the king, so that you cannot get black ran checkmated. And now queen b6, and this is really a provocative move again, to retreat or to move away this knight from the king side. So black's king side is really a bit without defenders now. He immediately tried to make use of this, and it looks a bit dangerous for black, at least in my book. But okay, he played queen d5, trying to exchange queens, and this queen also covers nicely the f7 square. This way, intending maybe this move. Well, black always has this answer, but yeah, you see that white is really getting close to black's king. Also, this could be an idea. A bit lots of arrows here. This kind of idea is also nice. So he played rook e8, setting for counterplay on the e-file. And now white queen to f6. We should look briefly at this knight g4 idea. I think then black just drops back the knight and covers the square. White can try this kind of stuff. It's all forced, and certainly white looks a bit better here at first sight with those active pieces, but it's not quite sure. I'm not quite sure if this really leads to something great. Let's say b5 and rook ft8. Not quite sure. I think he wanted to try for more and went here. So a quite similar position, but with the knight still on. Here white played the quite obvious move, knight to g4. He had alternatives, like queen e7, attacking this pawn. Yeah, maybe also a good option. But knight g4 really is the kind of normal move, I think. Carlsen with h5, not much else. Knight h6 was quite a big threat, so now white dropping back and black playing queen d8. We can also check what happened if black takes the pawn. White then could play rook d1, and now black's queen must decide where to go. If you go somewhere here, let's say to b4, then white has this shot threatening mate on h8, so we need to take.
Check.
Yeah, and
Check.
now
Check.
black cannot survive 3 heavy pieces on an open board. 3 attackers is usually too much for a king. You sometimes can stand 2, but 3 it's usually curtains. So black needs to be careful. He might be able to grab d4, but then he would need to take here, so that this move is not possible due to the pin. But here, maybe this kind of stuff. Yeah, it's super complicated and very risky. So rook b6 now black would be able to take. So well, it's certainly not a move that a human would play, taking on d4, especially because this pawn is weak anyway, and it doesn't make so much sense to grab a weakness if you have other useful moves to improve your position. The weakness might fall anyway. So queen d8, trying to get rid of the queens, which white certainly declined. Yeah, black didn't want to allow queen to h6, so king g7 is quite sensible. Yeah, white tries to bring more pieces to the attack. Yeah, this kind of position often arises in Queen's Gambit structures. It's very often about equal, because white has some attack on the king and activity on the e-file, while black has this quite strong knight and this potential play against the isolated pawn. But very often it's difficult to really exploit this pawn, as white is so active. And we see in the game that it's not really happening so much. Black just defends, but there's still some stuff coming up. So okay, white regroups the knight, maybe bring this piece to e4 to g5 later. So not much happening really. Okay, rook e5. So maybe he's attacking h5. Yeah, black attacking the knight and it retreats. And knight to d7. At this point, white cannot take on h5. Let's just show this quickly, because black can exchange queens and therefore get rid of this pin, so the rook is really lost here. So white played knight g5, and it's getting a bit scary now, this knight on g5, possibly with sacrificial ideas. Queen to d6 and knight e4. Yeah, and now maybe one idea could be this kind of stuff. This h5 pawn is really a bit of a concern for black. I think black probably wouldn't have any problems at all if this pawn would be on h7, but okay, you need to follow the chess rules. What can you do? This pawn is there. c5, and now knight g3. Topalov really trying hard to get something here, and black played h4. Okay, look at the clock times. This is important now. They're both at about 2 minutes left, and now Topalov played knight h5. This move is winning for white, and therefore you can conclude that h4 was a mistake. The thing is, black could play, let's say, rook e7, and maybe there's not so much happening. At least when I looked at this briefly, I didn't see anything, together with the computer, of course. So this seems to hold, but h4, knight h5, and this is really winning. This is also quite amazing. This is actually winning instantly. Carlsen took the pawn, the knight, and what's amazing is that the other moves are really completely losing. I think, let's say, king here, and then this move is really winning instantly. Black doesn't have a move. If he takes, queen takes, you've got this threat coming up, and on king here you have rook e8. So black is just completely murdered here. Yeah, it's understandable that he took the knight. So he grabbed it. And now to pile of plate, queen takes h5. If you want to do a small kind of tactical exercise, you can look at this position and try to find a good move here for white. I'll stop here for a couple of seconds and drink some water. Yeah, white could have played here rook g5 check. If the king goes to the h file, it's very simple. Direct mate. Oh no, don't tell me I have this mate thing again. Yeah, I have the phenomenon here. If I have a checkmate on the board, then the back button doesn't work. Just a second, I need to fix. Alright, I'm back. I fixed this little issue. Okay, so queen takes h5 is a direct checkmate. So of course king f8 is the real thing here. And then yeah, white just takes here, threatening queen h8, and there's simply no defense. So Topalov basically missed the mate in 3 moves here. Not quite sure what he didn't see there. He had 2 minutes left. I think usually you would say like 3 seconds should be enough for him. Really, really weird. This is just mate. So what can you do? He just missed the mate in 3 here, and with really simple moves. At the end he took on h5, and now black went rook d6, and now you have this lateral defense here. Really hard to get why he didn't play rook g5. Okay, so white played rook g5 check. There were alternatives. White can also try this kind of stuff with the idea of taking with the rook on h4, and this is also still very dangerous, but okay, both were very low on time, so it's understandable. He gave this check, and on rook g6 he grabbed this. So white is winning a pawn at the end of all this, but queen c6 is quite a cute move here, because black actually has some counterplay. Rook takes d8, there's queen g2 checkmate. I don't put it on the board because then I maybe have this. Oh, I already have this issue. I need to look into this. Why I'm not able to now it's gone. So funny. The point is, what I was saying is, if white takes here, it's actually black giving a checkmate. So white cannot take on d8. And at the end he played this funny move because of course the d8 rook is hanging. Queen takes, rook takes, and now black played c4. Very important to have counterplay, possibly with the c-pawn. If white advances with his d-pawn, black needs to have this kind of stuff to have counterplay. And funny enough, after all this this skirmish, this position is maybe around equal. Black has, as mentioned, counterplay. We'll see what happens. White pushes, queen d2, attacking the rook, and keeping an eye on d6, so white doesn't have much choice. He needs to give this pawn, and then we see that yeah, here white has a hard time trying to win. Black has all this checks coming up and still the c-pawn. Maybe this is around equal. He played rook takes c4, and this is a pretty simple draw now.
Check. Check.
Here he tried f4, last bullet, so to say, but now queen e3, and this queen is just delivering a perpetual. White cannot do anything to prevent it. He played d7,
Check.
and now black is giving the perpetual check. So quite a funny game here, where Topalov, yeah, with the double blunder actually, h4 loses.
check,
This is fine, but now he played queen a5, h5 instead of rook g5 check, which is really a super simple win and quite weird. So Carlsen could have easily lost this game. Maybe this h4 was a bit too much of provocation. Alright, so this was the coverage of the World Rapid Championships with the winner Sergei Karjakin. Surprisingly, after those first 2 days, I think it was the only thing you thought of, okay, how many points will Carlsen have at the end? 13 or how much? But yeah, he lost 2 games. A very tough fight against Ivanchuk and a somewhat, yeah, very difficult game against Grishuk, where he, I think, just made a single mistake with this bishop d7 move. Otherwise, I think he didn't do much wrong in this game, but Grishuk really played excellently well. Yeah, in the meantime, while Carlsen was giving away points, Karjakin won all his games, and with a bit of luck, of course, against Ivanchuk, where he was losing at one point, but then even won on the end when Ivanchuk simply forgot to, yeah, I'm not sure, forgot to press the clock or whatever. He just lost some time in a quite simple drawing position. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed the coverage, and yeah, I'll be posting new videos soon on various subjects, of course, followed by this Rapid Championships, World Championships in Kazakhstan, is immediately followed by the World Blitz Championships. I'm not quite sure if I should do any commentary on Blitz games. I mean, I do it with my own, but well, let's see. If there's some interesting stuff going on, then I might make a video on a couple of those Blitz games. Yeah, thanks for watching, and leave any questions or comments, of course, on YouTube. And yeah, talk to you soon with new videos. I think I'll also have some stuff coming up with games of myself, where I played some online tournaments. But there's also Dortmund coming up next week, where I might be doing some videos. Actually, this is an announcement I can make. I will be doing videos on the Dortmund tournament, but in German language. So those German watchers and listeners can look forward to not having to put up with my English. So I'll be doing something in German on this channel, starting next week when the Dortmund tournament kicks off. Yeah, thanks for watching, and talk to you soon with new videos.